Northwest Politics.
I'm State Representative Janelle Bynum, and I'm honored to be your next Congresswoman for Oregon's 5th Congressional District.
Making history and making the move to Washington, D.C. Janelle Bynum taking back Oregon's 5th Congressional District for the Democrats. I talk with her about her priorities and how she plans to work with a Republican majority in D.C. Plus, bringing back Portland's historically black neighborhoods with a $400 million investment from Nike's Phil Knight. We sit down with Rukiah Adams, CEO of the 1803 Fund, her vision for transforming the Albina neighborhood and the impact on the rest of the city. And a movement for parts of Oregon to become part of Idaho enlists the help of the incoming president. How leaders of the Greater Idaho movement say President-elect Trump could help make their dream a reality. Eye on Northwest Politics starts now. Thanks for joining us. This is Eye on Northwest Politics. I'm Ken Boddie. Let's get right to your top political headlines. A special session kicks off this coming Thursday in Salem. Lawmakers will address Oregon's wildfire costs. Nearly 2 million acres burned this year, leaving a bill of more than $350 million. While federal emergency funds will cover more than half, the state still needs to fund the rest. Governor Tina Kotek requesting $200 million for the Department of Forestry and the state fire marshal. Meanwhile, Governor Kotek released her proposed budget on Monday. Housing, mental health, and education topped the list of priorities. Kotek says she wants to build more housing, reduce homelessness, improve mental health access, and invest in early literacy. She also suggested adding $600 million into the state school fund. We have the governor's full budget proposal at coin.com. Tribal members of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde are rallying against PG&E's plan to take control of land at Willamette Falls. The tribes say the site is of cultural, historical, and environmental importance. PG operates a dam near that land at the falls, close to the Grand Ronde's historical fishing grounds. Janelle Bynum made history in the November election. She defeated Republican incumbent Congresswoman Lori Chavez DeRemer in Oregon's 5th Congressional District. It was one of the most hotly contested congressional races in the country. With her victory, the businesswoman and former state representative becomes the first African-American member of the Oregon congressional delegation. Janelle Bynum, welcome back to Eye on Northwest Politics, and congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
Your race was closely watched nationally, as I mentioned, as the Democrats and Republicans vied for control of Congress. In the end, the Republicans took it. They took both houses and the White House with the election of Donald Trump. We have the graphic of the balance of power there now. Can you be effective as a Democrat who's now in the minority?
Well, I've always run working across the aisle, making sure that I worked with Republicans even when I didn't have to. I represent a purple district, always have, probably always will. And so I think it's in contrast to what happens in Washington, D.C., where people kind of go into their little silos. I'm always the one that's reaching across the aisle, making sure that I represent everyone in the district.
Some House Democrats are looking at new leadership in the wake of what happened in the November election. What's your take on this and whether there should be new, younger leadership in the Democratic Party?
Well, I think it's an opportunity for a reset. It's certainly incumbent upon us to figure out how can we be most effective. So I like sports analogies, like you don't always get to pick your field conditions, you don't always get to pick your coach. It is really important for you to set the tone for how you want to play and operate in this new environment. So it's a good opportunity for reset, and I think the younger, newer voices coming in are happy to see that.
You were instrumental in passing the state's $210 million CHIPS Act last year. The federal CHIPS Act just awarded Intel, one of Oregon's largest private employers, $7.8 billion to advance its semiconductor manufacturing. How do you see your role in promoting technology now that you will be in Congress?
So I think it's more, for me, it's about jobs and where Oregon has a competitive advantage. So we knew that Oregon was one of the top states in the country for delivering semiconductor technologies. And so to me, it's about how do we make sure that our economy is stable. We have Intel here, we have Nike here, we have Providence here. These large organizations have to be stable and they translate to jobs. If we're not talking about how those industries translate to jobs, we're not having a real conversation.
What do you think about Elon Musk's involvement in the upcoming administration and his new Office of Government Efficiency, DOGE?
You know, I think it'll be a real challenge for him to shift from entrepreneur to bureaucrat. I am really concerned that President-elect Trump has, basically invited his friends to have a party at the White House and in the executive branch. And I'm not sure what kind of good outcomes they'll be able to generate. It's billionaires helping billionaires. I don't necessarily see those actions helping the average American, the working family that really needs help right now.
So how do you combat that, being a Democrat in Congress?
You play your game. Like the Democrats, or I would say lawmakers. Lawmakers need to focus on what is important. So health care, including mental health, just general access to health care, jobs, the economy, making sure that the government works for the people, not the other way around.
You unseated Republican Lori Chavez-DeRemer for this congressional seat, and now we see she's nominated for U.S. Labor Secretary by President-elect Trump. What's your reaction to that?
President-elect Trump nominated a liar and a loser. I've beaten her 3 times. My daughter told me the other day, Mom, you did a hat trick, which is when you do the same thing 3 times in hockey or soccer. And I don't think she served Oregon well, but it remains to be seen what she could pull off nationally. I think she's in a bind because she supported the PRO Act, which many Republicans, especially in the southern states, do not support. And so as she was trying to win this very purple seat, now she'll have problems nationally defending her position. I think we should always be in support of the working family in this country, and we'll see how she does.
Is there any sense of mutual accomplishment, though, just based upon both of your backgrounds? I mean, you both live in Happy Valley. You ran against each other for the state legislature. Now you're a congresswoman, and she's a nominee for the cabinet. Is there any sense of camaraderie there? I know you're on opposite sides of the aisle, but now that you look back on it, what do you think?
For the last 8 years, I've noticed that everything that I've worked and accomplished to do, she's followed. So the sky's the limit for me, and maybe I've set my sights too low.
You recently came from freshman orientation in Washington, D.C. What do you think your greatest adjustment will be going from a state representative to now being a congresswoman?
One of the things that people told me on the campaign trail was they were concerned about health care. So this is really personal. And it was the portability of health care. So now I am experiencing that as well. I have kids that need very serious medical attention. And so as I switch from state health care to now what they have for Congresspeople, I'm really concerned about making sure that my kids' health visits are seamless, that we don't incur very, very large bills. That was something that's like number one on my mind. I'm going to stay with my mom. I haven't even picked an apartment yet, but I'm really working on my health care. That's tough.
Yeah, reproductive rights were a big issue for Democrats during this election. How do you see that battle playing out in Congress now, especially with what's happening in the Supreme Court with the Tennessee case?
Well, I think health care is the most important issue. So how do people get the health care that they need? And how do we make sure that we're not sacrificing ideology for women's lives, for people's lives, for children's lives? I think it's a conversation that is ongoing, and people seem to have bifurcated the issues. It is still a #1 issue in Oregon and not something I'm willing to back down on. Maternal mortality is very important to the lives and health of Black women nationwide. So those are issues that I'm going to continue to carry the banner on.
I mentioned the Tennessee case. That's about transgender health care. What are your positions on that?
I don't understand why providing someone health care is a political issue. And I don't understand why people are attacking vulnerable people. That's as far as I can go with that. I don't agree with politicizing people's health care, period.
What committees do you want and why?
Well, I've put my name in for the Financial Services Committee. As most people know, I'm a business person. I graduated from the University of Michigan with my MBA back in 2000. And I've always been very interested in following the money. So one of the cases that we're seeing now, actually yesterday, unfortunately, we had an assassination in this country. the gentleman who was the head of United Healthcare, was killed. I believe that was directly related. It seems all arrows are pointing to the financial incentives of insurance companies, the financial incentives that right now are harming working families, and people are outraged about it. We don't know why exactly he was killed, but I can tell you that there was something very cold about the whole experience. He was killed around 7 a.m., and yet at 8 a.m. they continued on with the conference. There is something very cold about our form of capitalism right now. I believe in our system making sure that it works for everyone, but ultimately when we follow the money and we follow how it's being made and who gets the distribution and how we make sure that working families end up with a fair deal, that's really important to me. So that's why I've asked for financial services. Secondary, I've asked for agriculture. This district, CD5, is a big agriculture district, and I want to make sure that our farmers, as well as our school kids, get what they need through SNAP benefits or farm subsidies or whatever they need at the time.
You emphasize bipartisanship. Now, with D.C. firmly in Republican control now, is that even possible? Is bipartisanship even possible at that level?
If you're not an optimist as an elected leader or a politician, you don't belong in this business. And so I believe there are bright spots all over the place. I believe that there are Republicans, whether they're freshmen or recent members or even old school members, that want to get things done. And what I've learned in legislating is that when you are focused on your game, when you are focused on the outcomes, you will deliver. If you're focused on the antics and the politics and being on TV and sound bites, then you'll deliver on that. But I've always been focused on delivering for the people in my district, and that's why they've elected me time and time again.
Congresswoman-elect Janelle Bynum, thank you very much for coming back on Eye on Northwest Politics.
My pleasure.